thanks for joining me tonight. My name is Mike Tellerino. I am the CEO and founder of K9 for Veterans. Tonight, my guest is Zoe Kraner and Zachariah Jett, my co-host. Anyway, we're here tonight to talk to Zoe about the new 988 number for suicide prevention, the hotline. Correct? Tell us a little bit about that.
So effective Saturday, the 16th of July, us as well as 35 other states will now have 988 where you can call. So if you're with someone who's experiencing a mental health crisis, you can dial 988 instead of trying to remember the 11-digit suicide hotline. So essentially it will get them services faster.
Where does that number go to?
So currently in Illinois, the plan is there are 6 different groups partnering with the original group that would answer the 800 calls, and they actually have set it up so you can be on hold no more than 3 minutes before it's transferred to the next organization, which is extremely beneficial and actually came out of when everything happened in Afghanistan.
Right.
Because what happened was people would call and they would be on hold. I had one person who called me who said, my spouse has been on hold for 45 minutes and never did get to a live body.
Never talked to anybody live.
Never talked to a live body. So that's part of why they're moving it forward so that it'll roll over to the next
So this is going to be just a one simple number, 988. Just dial that number and it'll take you directly into a suicide prevention counselor.
What it will take you to is a kind of a crisis specialist. Mm-hmm. So you can use it for a mental health crisis. You can also use it for any type of addiction help. So if you've got someone who you're afraid they're overdosing or something else is going on. And so in Illinois, actually, August of last year, our governor signed into something called the CISA Act, which is the Community Emergency Services and Support Act. And what that does is let's say you guys are at the center and you have someone who's suffering a mental health crisis and you call that 988 number. Instead of just sending out a police unit, they actually send out what they call a crisis response team. Mm-hmm. And so what that group is going to do is there will be someone who's certified in mental health, as well as like an EMT or a medical professional, so you can actually assess them from both directions.
This is a long time coming.
It is.
It really is.
It is. So many... and I know you and I have spoken about this several times, especially following everything that happened in Afghanistan last August.
Right. The withdrawal we had. It was
everything we had.
Terrible.
It was horrible. I had a woman who called me who said, I came home and he's sitting in the dark with a gun in his lap. I can't leave because he'll do it if I leave, but if I stay, he won't. But I can't call the police because it'll end up suicide by cops. So What do I do? And so what we ended up doing was trying to find other people who had similar service to him to go in and intervene in the situation and be there for him.
Right.
Because who better qualified to help a veteran than another veteran? And the interesting thing is that they publish new numbers in conjunction with this 988, and we live it every day, right? We know that horrible number of 22 plus. Yeah. We know that if you take that by 365 days, that is 8,030 veterans every year at minimum.
And that's not an epidemic.
And that's
Go
great.
figure.
That's greater than the population of Aspen, Colorado. Think about that. Losing Aspen, Colorado every year worth of people.
Not all states report.
Illinois has never reported.
So 22, it's just a number that most people recognize.
Right.
And that's why they continue to use that number, because it's the most recognized number associated with PTSD suicide. If we start calling it 28 or 32, nobody would know what we were talking about.
Well, that survey really... as much as I'm grateful for it, that it brings attention to it and it keeps the conversation going, it makes me very angry. And it makes me angry because it only included 21 states. It only included if you used a rope or a gun, and if the coroner checkmarked the box that said you were a veteran.
Right.
How many do you think they missed? Mm-hmm. Illinois has never reported in all of the years of keeping these stats. Right. And we all see it. I mean, we all see it every day. And two, we talk about the active duty suicides as well. Active duty suicides are up 26%.
That is becoming more prevalent, active duty suicide. I've talked to for the Forgotten Warrior Memorial, of course, we add names to the veterans who committed
Correct.
suicide because of their PTSD. Well, I'm getting more calls from families that are mourning the death of an active duty veteran who committed suicide. We're not talking about a veteran who been through combat, 2 or 3 deployments. We're talking about an active duty, somebody who's currently serving in the military. There's got to be some rhyme or reason for why this is escalated. So, and you can't blame it on the COVID.
No. And what's interesting to me is some of the statistics that they released in conjunction with this. From 2019 to 2021, male suicides went up 18.5%. Do you know what especially female veteran suicides went up? 50.89%.
Oh my God.
If that number doesn't scare you, I don't know what does.
And what are we doing, though? I mean, I know the VA is doing what they can. Terry Prince, who is the director of the Illinois Veterans Administration, he is taking the bull by the horn. He's going to do some really amazing things to help bring that number down. Because, one, he's military.
Right.
Yeah.
So he knows what our veterans are going through, what they've been through, and he's looking for ways to bring that number down. And if there's anybody, in my opinion, that's going to actively do something to bring that number down, Terry's going to do it.
Well, another interesting thing that came out of this is, think about it, Zach. How many veterans do you know would actually step foot in the VA for that kind of help?
That's hard.
Percentage-wise, just throw out a number.
Probably less than 20%.
Okay.
Zach, isn't it hard for a veteran to step up to the plate and say, hey, you know what? I'm having issues. I need some help.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you're making yourself showing weakness. And we were taught the entire time we were in the military, never show a sign of weakness at all.
Have you ever seen the meme? And it's a little girl on her knees, and she's praying, God, please send help. And in the next frame, you see a guy getting ready to jump out of a plane going, ETA, 2 minutes, right? They're supposed to be the help. And so it's extremely difficult for our veterans to reach out. And you can run, and I've been to a million of these resource fairs that the VA or a VAC or someone tries to put on, and they put so much work and time, effort, and energy into it. And the veterans won't walk through the door.
Yeah.
And that's why the component of the CISA Act is so important, that you have that response team that will go to where the veteran is.
Well, I know a lot of police departments now have a specific person. If you call and say that you got a veteran who's in distress and he's just not himself and he's talking about suicide, rather than sending out police officers with their guns strapped to their hip and their badges and that aggression that they come out to every response call, and I understand why they do that, because they never know what they're walking into. But now a lot of departments are training someone to intercede if it's a veteran with PTSD, because they don't need that aggression. That's only going to make matters worse for that veteran.
Right.
Would you agree, Zach?
Oh, I 100% agree. I mean, we deal with assessing a threat every day. That was what our job was. And whenever you have somebody coming in and showing a force like that,
right,
you meet it with either an equal or stronger force. That's how we were trained. That's how we look at everything.
So my hat's off to these departments that are finally recognizing that they can't just send an officer in there that typically would try to handle the situation, because they're not educated enough about PTSD to handle that diplomatically and talk down to veterans.
Some departments, like Aurora, have actually taken it a step further. They actually have a mental health professional that's paired with a detective, and on those specific calls, that professional goes on those calls with them, which again provides that response. But I implore you, if you've got someone with military or first responder background who's struggling, when you make that call, make sure, and the 988, just like the national hotline, push 1, as soon as it answers, push 1 for a veteran. But when you call, make sure you say it is a veteran in distress, and they will do everything in their power to send out a veteran on the call, because as you guys both know, right? How much easier is it for you to talk to a fellow
Oh,
veteran
yeah,
than it is Joe Schmo
easy.
off the street?
Who doesn't know the first thing about being in the military?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I also believe that's where organizations like mine, Support Over Stigma, come in, because people will reach out to me. I don't look like a shrink. I don't sit with you in an office. I don't say, here, jump on my couch. Let me shrink you.
Yeah.
I'll meet you for a cup of coffee. We'll have a conversation. I don't need to know about the DVD that's on repeat in your head because you live it every day. My job is to help you find ways to cope
That's
with
why
it or get around it.
I like the name of your organization, Support Over Stigma.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the title alone says everything.
Right.
You know, and I think what you're doing for our veterans with Support Over Stigma, it's just a phenomenal thing. You're doing some amazing things. I've talked to veterans who actually met with you and talked to you, and they just, they all said she just totally gets the picture. She totally understands me. So, I could talk to her, and it's like she knows what I'm going through. And that's what they need, more counselors to be of that mindset, to know what's going through that veteran's mind at the time, so they could relate to that, and I hate to use the word talk them down,
Right.
but basically that's what you're trying to do.
Well, and I think the mistake so many people make is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure you guys have seen it too. Sometimes when somebody's in that point, and I've even used this in my own life, right? You go to that person and you have to go, I don't want you to fix it for me, I just need you to listen.
Right.
And sometimes it's just enough to be there and listen to get them over that hump
Right.
of whatever that issue is. Or sometimes, there's an old saying, fear is boogeyman of the brain. If you talk about it or you write about it or you get it out somehow, it's not so scary.
I had a situation where I got a phone call 10 o'clock, probably about 10 o'clock at night, and he says, is this K9 friend? I said, yeah. He said, well, I'd like to talk to someone. And I figured, well, 10 o'clock at night, I'm not the person you want to call and talk to. If this is what this is about,
Right.
let me give you a number of somebody you can call. So he said, no, he said, I just feel like I want to talk. I said, well, that we could do, but if you have any thoughts of suicide right now, please let me give you a number that I could help you with.
Right.
So he proceeded to tell me after a while, he says, I did have a thought of suicide. I did try to commit suicide. He says, my neighbors were having a party, and they were shooting off bottle rockets or whatever they were doing. And he says, I grabbed the kitchen chair, I placed it up against the front door, braced it against the front door, and I sat there, and I was just beside myself. And he said, I had my gun in my hand. He says, I put the gun in my mouth 2 or 3 times. And I says, well, obviously you didn't pull the trigger, otherwise we wouldn't be talking right now.
Right.
I said, if you don't mind, tell me why didn't you follow through with it? He says, my 6-year-old daughter walked out of the room when I had the gun in my mouth and said, Daddy, don't do that, I love you. So I thought, not only is this veteran going to be suffering from that, but his young daughter now is going to have secondary PTSD watching the father do that. So we arranged to get him counseling through Rush University, the Road Home program, and to this day, because he was able to talk about it and get the right kind of not just counseling, it's got to be the right kind of counseling, because he got that and received that from the Road Home program. Today he's doing fine. His daughter's fine, he's doing fine, no thoughts of suicide. But again, it all goes back to finding the right, like yourself. You have that knack to be able to talk to our veterans on a level that they can relate to. You're not over talking them, you're not under talking them, you're listening, you're giving them a shoulder to lean on, or whatever the case may be. So,
and it's interesting. Sometimes they come and I just need anyone. I've actually had 3 in the last 2 weeks where it's something traumatic has happened, and they almost need that mother's approval of non-judgmental, Just
Right.
hear them out, let them know it's going to be okay.
Just
and in
listen.
2 of the 3 cases, moms passed away while they were deployed. And in the 3rd one, there was a traumatic issue with a parent. But sometimes it's just having that non-judgmental shoulder
Right.
to just listen.
I agree.
I mean,
And
just
just
listen.
somebody, that's why we do buddy checks, where we just, if you know someone that's going through a hard time, pick up the phone, give them a call, ask them how they're doing, ask them if they feel like talking, if there's anything they like to get off their chest, just that you're a person that's going to listen to them and not be judgmental. And sometimes that's all it takes.
Well, and when everything happened back in August, and we know, right? I had new veterans, I had Vietnam veterans. The most calls were from Vietnam veterans because it triggered a lot of their own memories and issues. But not to embarrass you, I called you, right? Because I was calling all my veteran friends.
Right.
And do you remember what you told me?
No.
I called to see if you were okay.
Oh, yeah.
And here's what he told me. He said, do you know that you're the 74th person I've talked to today and you're the first to ask me how I'm doing?
True.
So it's not just the people that are struggling, it's the people who are helping those who are struggling. We need
Right.
to check on them too, because it can be a pretty heavy burden some days.
With the Forgotten Warrior Memorial, which is located in Shanahan State Park, it's to honor our veterans who committed suicide because of their PTSD. And it's not that we could do anything for our veterans that already took that final leap and committed suicide, but we want the world to know, that these veterans, their death was a direct result of their service to our country. It wasn't just because they woke up one day and said, well, I'm just going to end it today.
Exactly.
No, they should be honored as a true hero. And that's why we built that memorial in Shanahan State Park, is to honor these and hopefully give their families some closure. But I love what you're doing with your organization. I mean, you're just somebody that they could talk to and reach out to. You're a real person. They're not gonna get a recording when they call you.
Right.
They're not gonna be put on hold, or they're not gonna be, asked stupid questions.
Right.
You know the right things and the triggers, what not to ask them or talk to them about, and that makes the difference and stuff. So how would our veterans get a hold of Support Over Stigma? If they know anybody that's suffering,
Right.
you're the organization, you're the go-to organization.
Right.
You really are.
We are. So, the easiest way is any of our social media, Support Over Stigma, or www.supportoverstigma.org. And our phone number is 630-492-0308. And that rings when nobody's in the office, rings directly to my cell phone. So you will always get a live person
Right.
when you call that phone.
And that makes the difference.
Because it's been my experience when people call, kind of like that person that called you, right, late at night. You can give them a phone number, but a lot can happen between the time you hang up the phone with them and whether or not they pick up that phone again. And it's been my experience that if somebody has the courage to pick up that phone and actually ask for help,
It's hard to pick up the first time.
they aren't ever going to do it a second
No.
time. So what I do is, if it's a situation that I think is beyond what I can help with, and that doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, I will say, hang on a half a second, and I will connect via 3-way call with somebody else and say, I've got so-and-so on the line with me, and I will do a warm handoff to make sure, and make sure they've got each other's contact information and everything, because I don't ever want something to happen between
Right.
me saying call 800 blah blah blah.
Yeah. Because you
me
never
hanging
know
up
if they're going to call.
No, and I don't ever, and even with our active duty things, and I know you and I were talking about, we have an aircraft carrier right now who they won't even put a number on it. The email that I got said we have had a rash of suicides. So it's not a good, it's never a good number,
No.
but it's not a good number. And they've reached out for help, so we're sending cards and letters. And if you want to send a card or letter, message me through that website, and I'll get you an address where you can send one, because we've actually set up stuff to cover them over the next 6 months. But all these little ways we can reach out, all these little things, and whether it's a phone call, like we were talking about, or sometimes it's even just a text message. Hey, I thought of you today. Hope you're doing okay. If you're not, reach
That's
out.
all. Sometimes a simple phone call could stop someone from taking that final step.
And whenever I talk to, whether it's a service organization, a group of veterans, a church group, wherever I am, I always say, and if you or someone you know is struggling, because how many of us will, hey, my friend, I'm calling because my friend's struggling, right? I don't care if it's you or your friend or whoever. My job is to figure out how to get them help. And with the active duty guys and gals, right? Here's where you can get help in the military, but here's all the places you can get help outside the military,
Right.
because I'm not about jumping rank or any of that stuff. I'm worried about saving your life.
Right.
And I don't care who I make cranky in the process, because that's
Well-
why I'm here. And with your memorial, not just honoring their lives, but so Support Over Stigma got started when I had to call my son 9,000 miles away from home and tell him that a very good friend of his, a 22-year-old Marine named Corporal Patrick O'Reilly, took his life. My son ended up losing 3 people in 4 days, 9,000 miles away from home. And Patrick's name is on that wall.
I know.
And I can tell you, it's not just honoring those people, it is the love and support that are given to those families. And not just that, it's when we stand up there and we talk about this, and there's, 50 or 100 people standing around at this memorial, and we say again, hey, if you're here and you're struggling, here's all the people you can reach out to.
Right.
Look around you. We're all here for that reason.
Yeah.
And none of us want to see your name on that wall. We don't want to see your name on that
Hopefully,
wall.
the memorial. We're not able to do anything for the veterans who took their life.
Right.
There's nothing we could do for them.
Right.
But hopefully, to get the word out that this doesn't need to happen.
Right.
Take that initial step forward and say, you know what, I need help. Don't be afraid to ask. I tell all our veterans coming in, the first step in getting better is asking for help. Until you could step up and say, I need help, you're not going to get any better.
Right.
You're just not, because you're just keeping it within you, and it just festers and builds to the point where you reach your breaking point and decide to take that ultimate step.
Right.
Yeah.
And when people call me, that's one of the things I try to reassure them. I try to reassure them, the most courageous thing that you could ever do, you just did by picking up the phone.
Right. That's
and
the
reaching
hardest-
out to me. That is
the
the
hardest part.
hardest step.
And once you take that step, life becomes bearable.
Once you take that step, whether it's me or someone else, I am going to surround you with people who care. I am going to surround you with people who are going to walk every step of that walk with you, who know what it's like, who have been there and done that, have the t-shirt and the matching socks, and that's how we get through it. And that's why it works the way it
Zach,
works.
you know people who committed suicide.
Yes. We dealt with a similar issue to what's happened on the aircraft carrier whenever I was stationed in Hawaii at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. That was 2012 to 2014, and it was hectic for a while. Whenever I was in Afghanistan, one of my friends committed suicide a few weeks into our deployment, and it changes everything. I mean, it's one of those things where you never want to let somebody else deal with your issues that you're going through, and we try and push ourselves through it so much that we don't know which way to turn. And
Right.
sometimes somebody jumps off the deep end, unfortunately.
Right.
And I don't
I know
have to deal with that
22
anymore.
veterans a day, regardless of the number, even if it was 22 a day, that's 22 too many. How we allow our veterans who stand up, raise their arm, take the oath, and agree to do whatever they need to do with no questions asked, didn't ask for anything, to go fight for our country and fight for you and for me, and ask nothing in return, and to come home and be shunned on because oh, he's got PTSD. You know
Right.
what I mean? I mean, it's almost as, and that's why I love Support Over Stigma, because it has such a bad stigma attached to
Right.
suicide that, you know, people look down on it.
Right.
You know, and we don't want that stigma attached to the suicides of our veterans. They didn't choose to do that on their own. This is something that they did fighting for our freedom, for our country. America is a great country. It's the best that I know of. Even though with all this bullshit we have going on, you know, with the Republicans and the Democrats and whose side you're on, who's left, who's right, you know, I mean, it's still a great country. It really is. And we just need to do more for our veterans. We really do.
Absolutely.
We're not doing, you know, and I'll publicly say that. We are not doing enough for 22 veterans a day, allowing them to commit suicide.
Right.
It's just crazy, you know. I see we only have a couple minutes left. So Zoe, one more time, you have such an important organization that helps so many people. One more time, tell us how, if we have a veteran that's in need of help, what they could do to reach out to you.
The fastest way is to call us at 630-492-0308. Or you can reach us through our website, which is www.supportoverstigma.org.
Or they can call K9 for Veterans, and I'd be more than happy to pass Zoe's information on. Again, you know, I can't say enough about what you're doing. Like I said, I've talked to veterans that you've talked to, and you've made such a huge difference in their life. You should really be proud of the results that you're getting from your organization. Thank God for doing what you're doing. That's all I could say, because you've helped save a lot of veterans that may have taken that ultimate step, you know. And Zach will tell you himself, when our veterans come into the training center, they're apprehensive about whether or not they even want a service dog, let alone that they're going to reach out and open their heart and their mind to someone that they don't know and tell them about what's going on in their head. It just doesn't work that way. You give them the confidence and the security and the comfort that they need to be able to talk to you, and your talks with them, it's amazing. It really is. So God bless you for what you're doing, and what a great organization you have. We need to get more organizations. You know, there's a lot of great organizations out there that are helping our veterans. It's not like it was in Vietnam. When we came home from Vietnam, you know, our veterans were shunned on. They were just looked down upon. They were called names and just insulted and whatever. Fortunately, today, I think we really learned our lesson from the way we treated our veterans from the Vietnam era. So, fortunately, today we have a lot of great organizations out there.
We do.
That are stepping up to the plate and say, you know what, we need to help these guys. They went out, they took that oath, they defended our country. You know, it was just, you know, so thank you for what you're doing. Zach, thank you for your service and being a part of K9. Zach was just put on as a spokesperson for K9 for Veterans to let the veterans know that, you know, you don't need to be alone. This service dog could be a game changer for you. And I'm happy to say, out of the veterans that we've put through our program, we haven't lost one.
It's amazing.
So, I mean, and I'm proud of that record. Mm-hmm. So, you know, again, Zach, thank you. Zoe, thank you. Reach out. If you know a veteran that's struggling, don't be afraid to reach out, really. Let them know that there is help. Let them know that they could reach out to Zoe. They could reach out to K9. I don't want to have to add another name to the memorial. Right now, we've got over 50 names on the memorial. And within the last 2 months, we have another ceremony coming up in October, I think it is. And right now, I have already 9 names that we're going to be adding to that memorial. And it's just heartbreaking to talk to these families.
And when you think about it, 9, they say every suicide affects approximately 150 people.
Right.
Think about how many people are affected by these 9 suicides.
I get it. Zoe, thank you
Reach
for
out.
being my guest tonight. It's always a pleasure, always an honor to work with you. And again, doing what you're doing, just continue to do what you're doing, because you are making a big difference. And Zach, you keep spreading that word about K9 for Veterans with our veterans, letting them know that there is an alternative to help them get through. You know, service dogs are never going to cure PTSD, but they make getting through the day so much easier,
So
as
much
you
easier.
could attest. So, God bless you and thank you for being with us tonight. Again, Mike Tellerino, K9 for Veterans, Zoe Kraner, Support Over Stigma, Jett,
Yep.
he is the spokesperson for K9 for Veterans. So God bless each and every one of you. Be safe out there and watch out for our veterans. Take care of them. They took care of us. Thank you.